U.S. troops out of Iraq after 21 years since the invasion of the country. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani made the call on January the 5th, a day after a U.S. drone attack killed a leader of an Iraqi state-backed paramilitary group. The official statement released by the Iraqi Prime Minister's media office called the strike a blatant aggression and violation of Iraq's sovereignty and security. Sudani announced the government is setting the date for the start of the bilateral committee to arrange for the withdrawal of US-led coalition forces from the country permanently. Since the Palestine-Israel conflict broke out last October, U.S. claimed its forces in Iraq and neighboring Syria have come under more than 100 attacks by Iran-backed militants, and the latest drone strike was in response to a mortar attack against its embassy compound in Baghdad. Currently, there are about 2,500 U.S. forces in Iraq and 900 in Syria. Will the escalation in the conflict lead to the end of U.S. military presence in the country? How may that affect the situation in the region? I'm pleased to be joined from Oklahoma in the U.S. by Professor Joshua Landis, Director at the Center for Middle East Studies at the University of Oklahoma, and from Beijing by He Wenping, Research Fellow at the Institute of West Asian and African Studies at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. The warmest welcome to both of you. Before I go into the question, here's a quick rundown of the timeline of U.S. troop interventions in Iraq. Now, in March 2003, over 100,000 U.S. troops invade the country to get as part of the coalition forces to topple former leader Saddam Hussein in search of so-called weapons of mass destruction. In 2007, troop levels surged again in the name of fighting terrorism. In December 2011, U.S. troops fully withdraw from Iraq, but again, in June 2014, U.S. redeploys 275 forces to Iraq to advise and train local security forces. By 2015, that level rose again to a few thousand. And from the end of 2021 till today, U.S. maintains over 2,000 troops to advise, assist, and enable local security forces at the invitation of the Iraqi government. Professor Landis, let me go to you first. Exactly how big, as I said, the U.S. presence, military presence is about 2,000 troops, but how big is the coalition forces in Iraq, and where are they primarily based at this moment?
Well, many of them are based in the east of the country, and they are fighting ISIS, and they're also supporting the U.S. troops in Syria. There are about 900 troops in Syria, and there are coalition troops in Syria as well, as there are in Iraq. And so this, if the Americans are pushed out, it will have a very profound effect, because the other coalition forces will, I think, feel compelled to withdraw as well. The whole edifice will be unsustainable. And with the start of the Gaza war, it quickly became apparent that not only did Syria and Iraq and Iran hope to push the Americans out, they couldn't attack Israel directly, but they did begin to increase their attacks on American forces. And the big hope is that they'll be able to drive them out. And Turkey as well has been attacking the Kurds in both Iraq and Syria with a tremendous firepower, executing many of the leaders of the Kurds who are supported by the United States. So this attack and the pressure on the United States is coming from many sides, and it's escalated in the entire region.
Ms. He, what are your takes on the possible reasons or the forces behind the increased attacks against U.S. targets in the region? As I said, over 100 attacks. The United States has reported over 100 attacks against its forces and its target against its installations in the region since the Gaza war broke out last October. Who are behind these attacks and why have they been escalating?
Well, I think the biggest background for this kind of attack to the U.S. military bases, obviously, that is this Gaza war ever since the last October 7th. With this Gaza war, Israel and Hamas has been escalated, and then those military forces, either based in Syria, Iraqi, and like Hezbollah in the Lebanon, even these Houthis now attacking those those ships across the Red Sea, all can trace all the way to these root causes of Hamas and Israel and the Palestinian, this humanitarian crisis, is being so serious in Gaza Strip. So that's the biggest background. Of course, because those U.S. military bases, those soldiers, like 2,500 based in Iraqi and 900 in Syria, now they are becoming very obvious target for all those forces, those military, those forces, some even the ISIS, those terrorist group, now also made this twin blast in Iran. So I think the motivation behind this ISIS is also trying maybe to make all those big, turbulence in this, make the storm there, even trying to drag Iran in this war. Maybe drag Iran directly fighting together with Hamas and then with this Israel. This is what they wish. So actually, with all those like terrorist group and also military, those forces based in Iraqi, Iran, and Syria, of course, in the U.S. Observation, they all have Iran behind these forces. So they want to make their voice heard. They want to make this attack to show the world they are stand with Hamas. They stand with Palestinian people, like this Houthi.
You mean the attackers?
You mean the Red Sea?
Yeah, you mean the forces behind these increased attacks against U.S. targets. Professor Lenders, what is your point on that, behind the forces behind the increased attacks against the United States? And also, the United States has refrained from reacting strongly to these attacks, but on January the 4th, the drone attack that killed Mushtaq Jawad Kazim al-Jawari, leader of the group called Popular Mobilization Forces, or PMF, which is affiliated with the Iraqi Interior Ministry. Now, that attack triggered a very huge backlash. Why?
Well, he is a very prominent personality in the Iraqi Shia community. He has fought against ISIS. So by killing him, the United States had been very reluctant to strike back at Iraq, fearing that the Iraqi government would then have to move against the United States. So what the United States had been doing is when their bases are attacked, even in Iraq or in Syria, they would attack pro-Iranian forces in Syria. And both Iraqi groups and pro-Iranian groups had big military installations and ammunition dumps that would be attacked by the America. But by killing Abu Taqwa, his nom de guerre, most recently, this very high-profile person, it forced the Iraqi government to move on Friday and state that it was going to ask for the U.S. troops to withdraw. And America had been resistant to this, but pressure had been growing in America and in the armed forces to say you have to respond in a hard way against these forces. And it just increased the pressure. And now Parliament has swung into action, just as America feared, and it's going to ask for these forces to leave. Now, we don't know what's going to happen because there are plenty of groups within Iraq that want the United States to stay. But of course, the Shia community, and Abu Taqwa is a Shia militiaman connected to the government, it's going to cause some dissension within Iraqi ranks. So we're going to have to watch how Parliament deals with this issue. But it's a very clear light to America that if you escalate, we can push you out.
Well, did the United States, Ms. He, did the United States foresee the kind of consequence when they reacted by killing the leader of Popular Mobilization Forces, that the Iraqi government will not react strongly as what they have done now, calling for the US-led coalition forces to withdraw permanently?
Well, to my understanding, I think when the U.S. made this decision to kill this very high-profile Iraqi leader, they have already thought about these consequences. Even now, they have been already prepared. Any worst consequences, even when Israel also killed the number 2, this leader of the Hamas. So even the Houthis, all those things. So U.S. has been ready. But actually, the United States, after they withdraw their troops completely from Afghanistan, they have made a similar decision, saying they are also about to, leaving the Iraqi. Also, by the end, even saying last year, but within the situation changed in the Middle East, you see this Hamas war with Israel. So all other these things also changed. Plus, like our American colleagues just mentioned, Iraqi, these troops based there, American troops, they want to support also the American troops in Syria. And plus, like Turkey now also has an ambitious goal to targeting these Kurds in the Syria or in Iraqi. So this is other means now, reasons needs these American troops continue to base there. Plus some, another opinion coming from Pentagon and also American Congress. They are saying withdraw even from Afghanistan is a mistake. So not mention withdraw completely from Iraqi also will tend to be a big mistake. So those opinions also hold on the Americans troops completely out from the Middle East. I think for all those consequences, like Iraqi maybe now is in the starting the process saying to kick out American troops completely. I think American side, they have their means to counter this kind of move if they don't want to live in that country.
The Pentagon did not comment on the announcement from al-Sudani's office. At least we didn't find many meaningful reaction. They only referred to journalists to comment to the comments that was made by U.S. top military spokesperson calling Iraq a valued partner. Professor Landis, what is the U.S. position on this? Why does the U.S. has the U.S. not made more explicit comments as to whether they're going to stay or not?
I think they want to keep this out of the public limelight, where they understand that they're fighting against a reputation because of Gaza, because of the support in killing so many Palestinians. The Arab world is extremely angry at the United States, and many groups are going to try to use this to push America out. But America still has friends in Iraq. And also, I think many of the Iraqi politicians fear that if the Americans leave and they push out the forces, that America will begin to place sanctions on Iraq. And there are already a number of sanctions on Iraq because Iraq is helping Iran launder its money and get dollars through Iraq. So the United States has been warning Iraq not to do this. But once their troops, if they're really forced out, then the United States will not hold back and it will begin to sanction Iraq. So this could deteriorate its position. And the United States has been trying, the Iraqis have been trying to play Iran off against the United States. And if the United States is pushed off, there's really nobody. It's going to cause Iran to have much more influence in Iraq. And many of the Sunnis and many of the Kurds will not like this. So it'll increase sectarian tensions within Iraq, and it will weaken Iraq in its position in the Middle East. Having U.S. forces there benefits Iraq in many ways.
Ms. He, how do you foresee the kind of changes to the situation or the complexity the region will, or increased complexity the region will see if the United States and other coalition forces indeed withdraw permanently from the region? And does the U.S. have other choices but to withdraw its forces? I mean, to stay now that the Iraqis have made their demand pretty explicitly, I mean, the Prime Minister.
Well, I think some people saying if U.S. Troops completely withdraw from that region, and then seems Iraqi will in chaos, and then maybe Middle East, and then will fall into big conflict, and so on and so forth. But I don't think that thing will happening like that way. Look about Afghanistan. U.S. troops, completely withdraw from Afghanistan. So have we seen Afghanistan now fell into the big trouble? A lot of chaos, a lot of killing happening, not happening. So far, 2 years already passed. This Taliban has been governing this Afghanistan also in a very steady way. Actually, security situation even better off than before. So same thing when we look about Iraqi. So if the U.S. withdraw from the Iraqi, even though some interest groups in the Iraqi, some politicians, they maybe benefited a lot from the U.S. existence in the Iraqi because they also get the dividends from all those, the military base.
Okay.
But actually, I think the people there, especially those different, sectarian, those groups, I think the common opinion, the majority opinion is they wish the U.S. out.
Okay, we have to leave it there.
The U.S. continue based there, especially ignore Iraqi's sovereignty and dignity when they make the drone attack.
Many thanks to my guests, Professor Joshua Landis and Ms. He Wenping. We ran out of time. Thank you. When we come back, I spoke to a Chinese-American scholar who has left American academia. Why did he leave? What does he think of the atmosphere in debates in America? Stay with us.